we'll have a nice conversation. So Robert, why don't you start?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? My name is Robert Greenberg. I'm with a company called Passive Land out of Los Angeles. We're a national private money lender. Actually, I work remote. I'm out there a week or two a month, and the rest of the time I'm here in Dallas, which is where I have lived pretty much most of my life. Back to Passive Land, we're a private money lender, primarily fix and flip on residential property, but we also do some commercial. We also do some ground up. We're probably the thing that makes us more unique than other private money lenders is we operate a crowdfunding website. So we will take some of the loans we do and make them available to accredited investors to buy in. So we offer those as investments to people who understand investing in real estate. And it works, our website works a lot like Amazon, where you would buy a book, but instead of buying the entire loan, you could buy, it would be like buying a book by the chapter, or you could buy the page, or even by the word. So you can put as little as $5,000 to become an accredited investor. So that's one way that we capitalize ourselves after we make a loan. We do about 30, 40 million a month in loans.
Hi, my name is Nick. I'm with Fortune DNA. We're a firm out in Las Vegas. We came down to see you guys. I used to live out here before I ventured out there. I don't know if you guys can remember a time when the tollway didn't go all the way through, and the last real restaurant on the outside was Randy White Steakhouse. You guys remember that? And they hadn't even thought about building the AAA ballpark, and most roads didn't connect. And if you went to Prosper, you were lost. So, and you couldn't see the signs, you didn't know how bad you were lost. But what we do is we want to ask protection estate planning entity firm. We just turned 31 years this last November. We have some of the best talent in the whole country that work for us. Some of the guys that were head of the forensic tax audit division for the IRS for 31 years. They wrote the book on small business audits. Being able to know how to do structures. I don't know if you guys run into this, but it seems a commonplace. You know, you'll talk to your tax guy, he tells you to do one thing. You'll talk to your planner, he'll tell you to do something else. You talk to an attorney, he tells you to do something else, and you don't do anything. So having the ability to have everybody working on the same page, communicating, making everything work together, actually teaching clients so that they know what it is that they have, how to utilize it to the best of their ability. We do the legal side, the tax side, the wealth preservation side, all rolled up in one. We do all 50 states, and we do 44 countries. So anything that you can imagine when it comes to making or keeping money, we do. And anywhere you are, your family is, or anybody you do business with, we do business there as well. So looking forward to talking to you guys today about a lot of the new tax changes that are coming down the pipeline. If you guys are doing the same thing this year that you did a couple years ago, I guarantee you are going to get a surprise of your life come this April. There are some limited things that you can do now, but especially for this year moving forward, the game has really changed, and you've got to adapt and change. But I tell people it doesn't make any sense to make $1 million and give half of it back to Uncle Sam. It doesn't make any sense to have 50 properties and have somebody sue it and take it away from you. So we're going to show you some of the plans of the ultra wealthy that they actually use. People hear about programs being available, like Warren Buffett making $1 billion and paying less tax than his secretary, right? Well, you go to your CPA and ask him, hey, how do I do that? And he says, I don't know. It's available to you. All these different programs are affordable to you. You just don't know where to go, and we're going to bring a lot of this to life today. So looking forward to that.
I wonder how I get that money tree in the backyard.
That's right.
You have like
Money tree, seeds.
Yeah, magic ones. Well, hi guys, my name is Scott Horne. I know a lot of y'all may know me. Unlike these guys, I am local, homegrown, born and raised. For some reason, just can't get out of Dallas. Haven't lived more than within a 2-mile radius over in East Dallas by White Rock Lake. It's just where I am. I am originally an engineer from college. Went to law school for some reason. Never intended getting into real estate. Today, we are real estate attorneys, title attorneys. We are real estate investors. We're hard money asset-based lenders, property tax lenders, et al. Our law firm specializes, or focuses on the creative finance of properties. We work with realtors, we work with investors throughout Texas in the structuring transactions, whether it's the acquisition or the sales side. We are asset-based lenders, just like Patcher Land. I've been doing that since 1997. Shut it down back in 2009 for obvious reasons. Getting it back up today, doing this back for those 15 years. We are active real estate investors. I've had the privilege of acquiring over 3,500 single-family homes. And guys, when you buy 3,500 houses, you don't go look at 3,500 houses. You look at 30,000 houses. And all that does is that teaches you a lot of experience for our industry and about your marketplaces you're in, whether that's in Dallas, Waco, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, wherever it might be. Our title offices, we're Secured Title of Texas. We focus on the investor primarily. We don't go out for the retail marketplace per se. That is just our primary forte, is providing service to the investor marketplace throughout Texas regions. Who are you, Tim?
I am the guy that the building double booked the auditorium on, and then gave away my reception space, and then the projector doesn't work. So that's who I am right now. But I'm the guy that people have been calling negative, and nobody wanted to speak here because they don't want to say anything negative, and they also don't want to speak their fears out loud. But so I started flipping houses. Got out of the Marine Corps in 2001. I started buying, wholesaling houses in 2002. I met you in 2003. We partnered up and bought 60, 70 owner finance houses. Then I got married, started mainly flipping. And in 2007, I did 143 houses. And it was just funny because it's amazing. That's 12 years ago, right? But, the old dogs, quote unquote, like yourself and Arnie and Mark Higgins and Dean Lantos, some of those guys were telling me, like, dude, you better slow down. You better watch out. Your overhead's too high, and and all these great warnings that I completely ignored because I was 28. I was invincible. A 28-year-old guy is not supposed to make, $1 million a month, right? And at that point, I just ignored everything that anyone that had been where I was going was saying, because to me, they weren't as smart as me, or things had changed. And, all these things that we tell ourselves, and I see entrepreneurs everywhere telling themselves right now, it's, times are different. There's never been this much money available. There's never been this. And so I wanted to put today together, not from a point of view of scaring people, right? Because, to me, a correction, a setback, a recession, whatever you want to call it, is actually healthy. And to me, if you're an investor that's prepared, it creates exceptional opportunity. But if you're not prepared, you're bleeding in the street with everyone else. And that was me in 2008. We lost a little over, I want to say $1 million in fourth quarter 2007 and like $500,000 in first quarter 2008. And by, second quarter 2008, we were just out of money to lose. So, hard to lose what you don't have. But, and that's when all the banks started calling all the notes due. So I just thought we'd talk. So now, and I'll start off with this part, and I'll just go around and so banks. I see a lot right now in the Dallas-Fort Worth market specifically, people that are using bank money at 80% leverage, no seasoning refinance loans, owner financing the house as is. And it just reminds me of 2005, 2006 when the banks just got stupid with their money again. And I was talking to one guy, and he goes, "Oh, well, I've got a 15-year fix." I said, "No, you don't." "Oh, no, I got a 15-year note." And I'm like, "No, you don't." And like 2 days later, he calls me panicked because he had just closed on an $800,000 refi on like 10 houses. And he had a 15-year note with a 2-year adjustment, and it can be called every year. The deal, and you're the one that taught me it. Every year on the renewal date, all loan officer that makes $30,000 a year that's explaining to you doesn't know what's in it. Okay, and if you go read them, it says, that your interest rate adjustment period. That's where you want to look. It says, this rate will be, the floor of this and no more than this much increase. And there's like a sentence at the end that says this note may also be called due in full. And that little sentence isn't a balloon, but it is a call feature. And what happened in April of 2008 to me was I had never been a day late on my payments to First Bank of Canyon Creek. I was 100% occupied, and I had 50% equity. So I'm the one they called the line because they needed money because they were doing workouts with everyone else. And, they were letting everyone else, Robert, not Robert, but, hey, you've missed 9 payments and, your houses are half empty and they're crap and we don't want your houses. So let's work with you. Tim, you need to pay off $500,000 by the end of next month. And, you look around at that point, there was no money left. So, I don't know, I just, what I'm seeing in the market these days, I see aggressive lending by local banks. I see aggressive, securitization by national firms. I see, just the market, at the kitchen table market. I know some guys are here to do a lot of advertising. The kitchen table market is just flooded. There are so many investors coming to town. It made me. I just didn't know. I advertised for 4 or 5 months. So
that's one kick in for a minute.
Oh, please.
I was
rambling.
You ramble well. The thing to think about, guys, first off, you have to have access to capital to do our business. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Without capital, you can't buy houses unless you go into the creative world, and there's limited access to those things as well. But when you go to a bank, and you are right about some banks are getting a little loose with their money. Now, I see most banks today are requiring 20% down payments based on your cost, plus purchase price and repairs. Pre-crash days, they were financing 70-75% of appraised value.
We got to get you on Facebook because of these Facebook groups. I'm telling you, these dudes are like, I just did this house and I bought it for this and I refinanced for this in 1 week, and you're like, whoa.
I don't see a lot of that. There may be a few banks that do that. I haven't found those out there per se. But what Tim did touch on is what you have to realize is banks are going to give you either a 2, 3, or 5-year fixed rate loan, and they're going to amortize that over 15 or 20 years. And of course, the fallacy is people think they have a 15-year fixed rate loan or a 20-year fixed rate, and it's not. They also think that they have a 5-year fixed rate loan at a certain rate. It's going to adjust if they elect to renew and extend you. But what Tim also said is there's a little thing in the notes called a demand feature. That means they can call that note due anytime for any reason. You go back, you guys are mostly too young to know the 80s when the crash hit. Nick and I might have some knowledge base there a little bit.
He just looks young.
And things of that nature, but they can do that to you. One thing you don't realize is, and I lived through the crash, and we're going to talk about that in our little conversation here later, is that when things go south, the feds come in. And when they're sitting inside the bank, they tell the bank to jump. And of course, they go, how high? And everything rolls downhill from there to all of us and all of y'all. And relationships go out the window because the feds say you do it, there's no option. And when they have those demand notes, they can call the loan due for whatever the reason might be. The sky is blue. Sorry, your note's due. And it's recognizing those kind of things. And then it's understanding it's okay to borrow money. Just borrow smart money. Don't be stupid. One of the things Tim and I have worked so hard on and talked about for years and years is debt reduction, because too many investors do not do that.
Nick, you're really on the national scale. You're kind of digging in with people kind of on a lot of us see the front end production side of it. You can see the back end, right? You can see how well people are really doing. You can see their net worths and how much money they need to hide or how much money they need to make.
All over the country. Well, here's the thing that nobody is really talking about, okay? So, Winston Churchill said something similar to the fact that those that do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it, right? And here's what's happening again. So a couple statistics that nobody's talking about, but everybody needs to pay attention to, is that since 1946, the stock market has statistically corrected about every 9.5 years, almost like clockwork. It didn't matter if there was a Republican or a Democrat, or you were at war, or it was total booming, or whatever. It just always has. The average correction has been 33.8%, okay? So the average person lost 30, 40% out of retirement, okay? What happened in 2008? We had 1,311 institutions that filed bankruptcy because they were insolvent. Why were they insolvent? Because they went out there and they were 20 times over leveraged what the Federal Reserve said that they could be or should be, okay? And you guys remember some of the little companies, right? Like Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, 86 and $92 billion companies, okay? Now, what a lot of people did during that time, which is what we see now, is we knew in 2007 that houses didn't double every 6 months, okay? We knew it. We knew that a housing market that appreciates at about 3% maybe didn't double in 6 months, okay? So you couldn't always take your money out of your house and refinance it, okay? So if you really thought that the chaos was coming down the road and you had money in one of these major institutions and you wanted to be really conservative, you took your money out and you went to these major institutions and you put it into bonds or you put it into cash, right? But what happened was, if you put your money into bonds or cash or anywhere in these institutions, then what happened is when they filed for bankruptcy because they were insolvent, you got 17 cents on the dollar 19 months later. So today that's Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Merrill Edge, all these guys. It doesn't do any good to put your money and leave it in the market. First of all, if you're a real estate, you got to understand, are you a real estate investor or are you a stock investor? Because if you wouldn't take your own money and invest it in yourself, then who would you invest it in?
Well,
why would you build up Apple, right?
So there's this guy, his name was Chris Dandefeld, and back when I used to host the REI Expo, he was one of our biggest supporters. He passed away a couple of years ago, but his saying was always, what's the last 5% worth, right? And so many, and my dad's a great example. He's 62. He knows he's retiring in a couple of years. And, him and my stepmom, they just moved everything to cash. And people think he's crazy. He's like, I don't know. I mean, the last 8 years has been good to me, and I got a number that's good for me. And I think that's also something I'm going to drive home today. And Robert, I want you to talk about, you've seen some investors overextend themselves. I see this attitude of endless opportunity in the marketplace. And I'm not saying don't be optimistic. I'm not saying don't be positive. I'm not saying don't be aggressive. But you got to understand that eventually the music stops, right? It may not stop as in the Titanic sinks, but the music stops playing. And what you were saying is I watched these in bed. I'm going to play a video for you guys a little bit from a Dr. Seuss movie. It's, they get bigger and they grow and they leverage and they bigger and grow and leverage. And, oh, my God, now Patrick Lamb will do 90%, so I'm going to take some of that money. And then, oh, my God, I'm going to do this over here. And, oh, I got a cabbage line of credit, so I'll take some of that. And it's great to keep – you ever seen the Lorax anybody? Mm-hmm. To keep biggering. It's great to keep biggering as long as there's more succulent trees to chop down, right? But eventually you run out of trees, and then you don't have a product to sell, and then – the banker still knocks on the door and says, hey, that money you borrowed me, I'd like to get paid back. So, Robert, what is?
Well, first of all, we only go as high as 85.
Oh, no.
Which what Tim's saying is we'll lend up to 85%. We're really a short-term lender. Most of our loans are 12 months. We did business with roughly 1,000 investors last year, which to Scott's point, we probably talked to 10,000 or maybe even more in order to find those deals that we were comfortable doing. I do think, we do a lot of business with young, even first time, or, not terribly seasoned, although we like that. We like the business that we most want. And I think if you, back to the conversation that Tim started with, kind of what's happening in the market right now, I definitely see things feeling like they're softening up, and I think it's happening. And I believe that there's a silver lining. I believe that a lot of people who this market has been very, very good to. You didn't necessarily have to know that much. The property, by the time you got done with it, was going to sell very quickly. The market, the inventory, if you could get it, you could afford to move away because the market was there at the end. And I think that in my mind, there's three things that we are worried about. I think it's the same three things that people borrowing money and looking at getting into this. So I'm certain it's got what it is. The three things are when we look at the comps for what the house is worth today, the current as-is value. It's often we're looking at comps from 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago, or those comps may not actually be today's comps, right? Or even what it's going to be worth in 3 or 4 months, right? Anything you want to say about that?
No, you're exactly right. No, you had a few years back, you were getting 4, 5, 6 multiple offers on any one property, which was driving the prices up and up. And if you're running your comps and looking at your values, if you're using that in today's market, because in all markets, back in 99, 2000, we had a turn in the market, and house prices went up, then they leveled off, then they dipped down, then they stabilized. I think we're in that exact marketplace right now, in the same scenario where for the last several years, prices have been going up and up and up, and we've all seen it. And now I think you can actually feel where the marketplace has.
So the three things you're worried about.
Back down.
One is comps, and I think what I hear you saying is, how can you almost put more weight on most recent versus most comparable?
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you got something that may not have been rehabbed as nice, but was more recent, you're going to kind of lean that way because,
I think this is another real world example. Tim and I looked at a house. I think it was, was it last summer? Maybe
I don't remember, man. I looked at somebody's house.
But I called him up and I said, hey, I'm thinking I got to look.
He did that thing that all new investors do. I got a great lead, man. Let's go look at it. All right, let's go to Arlington.
It was a pretty good lead. It was, we thought it was.
Thought he had a relationship with the people, but that money was talking.
And I think the price that we came up with was the comps on that house was about $230. It was an old house, either a ton or a. I think we offered $145, and they said, "Oh, I just got an offer Tuesday, a couple days ago for $195." Huge difference. And I don't know. We never went back and looked to see what that house actually did sell for. Wish I would have done that. That would have made even a better story. But I think really the point of that is there's people out there that are overpaying and have been, and they probably have been able to come out the other end okay because the demand on the other side has been there. The second piece is the construction budget. I think a lot of people, and in order to make the numbers work with us, they're I think I'm going to do the work myself, or I got to know where I can get a deal on this, or they undershoot the construction budget, and once they're deep into the project, they're out of money. And we'll finance up to 100% of the construction, but it's only the construction that we agree to. And that's again, at least sometimes we'll kick back the loan and say, well, if you're planning on doing this, you need more construction, and that sometimes messes with the numbers to the point where we lose the deal.
But the thing is I guess it doesn't mess with the numbers to the point that you lose the deal. When you first started loaning me money in 2002 or 2003 or whenever, the whole.
By the way, don't you owe that back soon?
Huh?
With interest.
Oh no, I paid it all off when I was 18. The point was is back then people really looked at their hard money lender, their private lender, as an advisor, someone that had been there, done that, was there to kind of help them underwrite their deal, almost your own investment committee, if you will. But so I don't think you're not killing the deal. You're really kind of raising a red flag to the person, like, hey, look, you can lose your tail.
Absolutely, and I used to say this a lot, and I still believe this. When borrowers bring us a deal, and we have to look at it, and we're going to underwrite the deal. And if we ultimately say it's not a good deal, because we want to do the deal. If it's not a good deal for us, it's probably not a good deal for them. They should not be doing that deal. And they're probably going to. We often, they'll go shop the deal somewhere else, and they'll come back. Nobody else is willing to do the deal out of them. And the construction piece is that because they're either holding money back, they want to do the construction with their own cash, or if we raise the construction budget where we think it ought to be, it causes the loan value to go up. Now they need to bring more to the closing, and that's what they just don't. They may not have the money to be able to do it that way.
The bottom line is you can read the horse to water, right? And guys, just for everyone here, if you're a novice, if you're not a novice, too many people push their deals too much. When you look at someone who's been in business for as long as we guys have, who've done thousands of deals out there, and if we tell you there's an issue going on, there's an issue going on, you need to take heed to that. Most good lenders will do that. Now, if you have small private lenders who are not in the business, they just want to lend money, you're not going to get that help. You're on your own. You come to larger lenders who have the expertise out there, take heed, because experience really does help.
So I want you to finish in three.
The third
comp, construction budget.
Comps at the beginning, construction budget in the middle, and what the price is going to be on the back end. So it's really that's really the hardest thing. Is you're going to take 8 months, 10 months, 12 months to do this project, which is a long time. Most of these projects, but I think our average, we do mostly 12-month loans, 12-month loans into someone, and we see the payoff at 8 months typically. So, there's some percentage of our loans that go to 12 months, and we get an extension out of it if the project's not done for whatever reason. But on that horizon, even 6 months, here we sit in January, what are prices going to be in July? It's not as easy to tell that today as it has been over the past 4 or 5 years.
Well,
It is a crystal ball.
Well, and when we were working at B2R, I started overlaying our loan volume with the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional loan volume, the seasonality of it, right? The number of claims, and it does mirror, right? So I think we're going to have a healthy summer, right? But the question is that healthy summer mean that the house is going to sell for what you think it's worth today, 6 months from now, or is it going to be it's going to sell for that plus seller contributions? What is that really going to be? So, Nick, a lender that I really liked something they said they did is Gene, I forget his name, at 5 Arch.
Florida.
Yeah, sure. We were sitting in a bar one night, and it was after I left B2R. We were talking about he measures exit LTV. So, if you're going in at a 70 LTV loan and you're borrowing, and you thought it was going to go, be worth 100 and the lender's loaning 70. Well, he said one of the things he does is he gets the settlement statement when they get paid off, and they say, okay, our loan was 70. What did it sell for, right? And they come up with an exit LTV. I thought that was interesting, but I'm trying to set Nick up. I know you can't talk about customers, right? But by and large, when you're looking at profit and loss, right, what people are really making, do you think your customer base made more money last year or has more money after last year? Do they grow their balance sheet or their profit and loss statement, I guess is my question.
A lot of them, out of advice, we suggested to liquidate part or some of their holdings just because we saw cash as a real value. Because I don't think cash will be king in the next correction. I think cash will be emperor. Because the leveraging now, it's funny that you guys said that about that. It was only 12 years ago. It was only 10 years. It was really only 10 years ago. Everybody got handed, right? And here we are 10 years ago, and they went and did what they did before, only they got away with it, so they did it worse. It's like when you were a little kid and you got away with something, so you went to see how far you could go, right? Because, your mom just yelled at you, right? She didn't spank you. She didn't ground you. She didn't whatever. So that's that's happened. But we see a lot more cash. Because of that, they've been a lot more flexible. But one of the things is that, you talk about not getting caught in on a flip, but they've gone into alternative investments where they could get in and out, so that they knew where they were going to be like in 90 days, and it was something that they could control. So I see a lot more of the investors really trying to control their pool of money, knowing where it is all the time, safe harboring, sticking to places where they're not going to get subject to, say, the volatility of the markets, or be so much in a certain area or a certain thing where, you know, it's that old, all the eggs are in one basket kind of thing.
Because I was talking to Mark Bloom, he's the owner of Network, one of the largest wholesalers in the nation, and he was trying to be here, but they had their top performers thing somewhere out of the country, and he just was not available to be back here and be sober. So I think it was like Cancun or something, right? So anyway, I was talking to him. I said, look, man, can you quantify it? Like, I mean, and he goes, you know, we're not involved in the back end much. He goes, but I can tell you wholesale LTVs have dropped 4 to 5% in the last 6 months, right? And like, to me, and you're talking about, I mean, he's probably got, I don't know how much his company does. I think it's like $1,000 a year in Dallas, Fort Worth. So between his 17, 18 offices, the Network guys in here? No, they sent their goodies. So it's one of those things, like, when you look at that's dropped 4 or 5%, right? And I know I've bought more abandoned remodels in the last 24 months than the rest of my career combined, because investors are getting in and like, can't figure it out, you know, have to get out. And so, and I know of more investors that have lost their tail on flips, because it's funny. Nobody wants my advice until they're in trouble, and then they, you know, I'm the smartest guy they can find. So that was the reason for my question. Like, I mean,
the other thing that's really not helping is one of the things that they were talking about nationally, or we see nationally, is a lot more events for like people trying to get in now. I mean, now it's so funny. We're on the tail end of things kind of correcting, but now, because those guys aren't doing properties, they have time to do shows, right? So they're pushing the next level of people to come in.
Yep.
And this is the craziest thing that I'm seeing. So there was a property that just came about maybe 3-4 months ago, right? They have an auction. There's these guys that go out there, they do a show. Hey, you want to get out there and buy a property within 90 days, right? But they're buying a property no matter what, right? So it's like they just got to go buy a property to show that they're a real estate investor. So they go to the auction, they're offering $20,000, $30,000 more than the house is even worth, not even the work that you have to put in on it.
Right.
And I'm sitting there talking to a guy that bought it, and I said, why did you do that? He goes, well, I'm going to cash flow $300. I said, okay, you're upside down $30,000. You're going to cash flow $300. You didn't even figure in your property tax, did you? No. Well, you know you have to pay that, right? Okay. And you know that you're not going to get your equity back that you just overpaid for like 8 years, right? And you're sitting on a walking liability. If you're lucky, right? And so all he did was take a property that everybody was underbidding by 40 to 60, and he bid it. So now people are artificially thinking the market is still there. But what he does is he has that, you know what I'm talking about, right? But he's got a Yahoo that punched it up, right?
So, but
so on the book, it shows.
Because I do want to level set, and I want to be sure that the three of you are great. Because I wasn't deep into this in 08, 09, but what was the lending practices then versus today are terribly different.
the retail lending practices.
The retail.
Correct. I do not see bad lending on real estate for homeowners.
Yeah. So the notion that we're going to see something like we saw is not very realistic.
No.
Yeah.
I think we have the dot-bomb era, the turn of the century, little dip. Stock market's got to fix itself. I mean, it's 29,000 points.
When they realized that, when they came out with all these stocks being overvalued and now it's starting to correct, I think it's going to spill into the housing market. I think it's going to go.
Well, it spills into people's jobs, and then they can't pay.
Jobs,
and they can't pay for their house.
And I think it's going to level off. And I really see a exodus. Like I see a lot of people coming to Texas, leaving these high tax states because the rules have changed where you can't deduct, for example, your state income tax. And I can't remember who I was talking to.
Can't deduct that anymore?
You have to pay it. You used to be able to, if you had your state income tax like in California, it was 13.3%. And you would deduct your 13.3 from your 100% of your federal, and then you'd pay on your other 87%. Now you cannot deduct your state, so you pay that 13.3 plus you pay your tax. So what happened was I talked to a guy here literally last week.
All of you should be.
And because of the money he's making as a doctor, he said, here's the deal. If I move into Nevada, right, or Texas, I can go buy a house there and pay the mortgage with just the state income tax that I don't have to pay.
So when Robert and I were on the management team at B2R, most of the management team lived and worked in New York City. So they were paying like New York City tax, state income tax, the interstate work tax, and so the CFO who lived in Upper Manhattan, he goes, look, man, shut up. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I see your check stuff. We have the same salary and you make like 30% more than me. So shut up. I was like, oh, okay. Because I was complaining about traveling or something. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, I just wish you'd send all those people from California, New York back home.
Yeah. It's not like we want them, but they're coming.
Well, we do want them. And that's another thing. The funniest thing that Robert said was that houses are going to take longer to sell. And, like, my wife did this to me probably 6 months ago. We had a flip that was on the market. And she's like, oh, my gosh, this is taking so long to sell, and I'm worried.
How long?
Well, she's like, I'm worried. I'm like, well, when did we put it on the market? She goes, last week. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, you know. But then, like, I think during the next 18 to 36 months, and I'm kind of a right around the next presidential election correction kind of mindset guy. Just like when Trump got elected in November, right? The stock market, like everybody was anticipating it, you know, whatever, he was going to magically correct everything in January. I'm thinking around the next election, that's when we, you know, get a little wonky, which that's good. I mean, it gives us, you know, a good 18 months before you can't buy any advertising because there'll be, I was reading a record, like they think it'll be like $1 trillion spent on trying to get the next Democrat elected. I mean, just.
Well, you guys have to always remember, you always make money on any asset when you buy it, not when you sell it. If you go into it good enough, if you go into it strong enough, you don't have to worry about saying you're sorry. It's when you don't do your homework and you don't do your planning and you don't educate yourselves and you're so quick and you're in a hurry and you get emotion. That's the other thing. Emotion kills investment.
Well,
you make something what it isn't.
When I go back to 2008, and a good friend and mentor of mine told me not to do it, but I did it. I bought this, you know, 3-acre lot out in Heath, Texas, and I built this 5,000 square foot house with 4 garages and a custom diving pool, and you know, I mean, I built myself $1 million house because I could. And then, you know, by the time 2009 rolled around, I used to refer to it as the albatross, right? I mean, you know, when you're cracking a $5,000 a month egg, it's, you know, you got to have some chickens, and you know, is coming out of that in about 2013. We sold that house, got all of our money back, right? I mean, thank God. But you know, now you were talking about being emotional, and so back then I was really emotional, right? Because you had to make enough to pay for this and put the kids into this school and pay for this car and do all the things that was expected of someone of my stature. Now, in this, where we're at now in our business, we, just like you advise people, we sold all of our owner finance notes last year. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but like basically we sold them for 93 cents on the dollar, the unpaid principal balance, and that was after 10 years of sucking the interest out of the front end of the amortization. So when you really look at it, I mean, we got all the gravy and then just sold someone some biscuits, half a biscuit. But that was great, and it was a good transaction. Now we're just sitting on the cash, and now we've pared down a lot of our office expenses, and it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, now we can comfortably go with no revenue for like 2 years and not worry, whereas the time before, and that's what I try to help some of these newer investors I see at this phase of the market. They're not making money anymore. So they're either teaching a class, starting a podcast, or what I wish they would listen to me. You see them opening up an office and bringing in people, and they're going to expand. Well, they're only expanding because they're just not making enough money where they're at. So they're kind of searching. And, you know, that's what I did in 2007. I mean, I got up to where my monthly advertising bill was to home investors. I think it was like $35,000 a month in advertising. And I had 17 employees, 2 wrap trucks. I mean, our monthly nut was like $120,000 a month. And what people got to understand, and what you got to be careful about at this phase of the market, is a lot of that So the market can take your income away like that, right? It's just a terrorist attack, crazy day on Wall Street, a presidential impeachment, right? Like things that have nothing to do with anything we've talked about yet this morning can take your income away like that. And if you've got too much overhead, right, you can't just not have an advertising bill due next month when you did a 6-month billboard, right? The people that rent me this office space, right, if I can't flip houses anymore, I can't just go in there, hey, this was cool, but we're going to move out, right? They're going to come after me. And so just at this phase, like kind of my advice to everyone that's my friends and that actually ask me when they want to hear my opinion is just be overhead light, right? And cash is going to be emperor. I agree with you, but, be overhead light, right? Be able to move, flex and move. Understand and also build a reserve account. Some of these flippers that take loans from you and me and you, they come in and they've got just enough to own that house for 4 months. It's like, okay, if the rehab takes you a little bit extra time and you go 10% over and you have to wait a whopping 30 days to sell your house instead of, 3 days, are you going to be able to do it? And we've had investors in the last 6 months that we've turned down because they bring us a completed project, but they need to refi out, and they're trying to pull some money out on the rehab that hadn't sold yet. And it's like, hey, man, that just sounds like an awful loan, right? I mean, like, you're trying to pay off that hard money lender because he doesn't like the house anymore, but you want me to loan you more than you owe him? No.
I mean, Tim's exactly right. The two things that affect everybody in this room is taxes and debt. And you got to get them both under wraps. I mean, that's what kills your retirement. That's what kills your income. That's what kills your available cash. I mean, interest does not sleep. It's always there. It gets paid.
I want to chime in just on a few things that I've heard.
That's the longest you've ever been quiet around me.
It's wonderful sometimes. But, first off, the overpaying of homes. You go down to the auction and whatnot, and you watch people bidding on emotion so often. I have to buy a property. I'm pulling my money out of the market. I'm going to put it someplace. These big hedge funds come in, they buy houses. You look at how they're buying homes. They can't be getting more than a 2% return on their capital, maybe 3% if they're lucky in that regard. But you see that constantly. There's a company here in town that I mentioned the name, everybody would know it. And they buy homes, and I see what they're buying because they outbid me. Substantially outbid. And their philosophy is they're going to get in, get out fast, and the marketplace is going to increase in value enough to make their profit. It's Russian roulette. It's nuts. And eventually it will go away.
Open door?
I'm not going to mention names.
Well, because you can get on Open Door, if you're a curious person and you have MLS access, see, they're all listed through Open Door Texas Realty, their brokerage. You can log in and look at it. You can see their days on the market, their available inventory, and you can even pull monthly samples, and it's going up. Their days on the market are going up. Their price reductions are going up, the amount of them, not the price, right? I mean, and we did the first line of credit for them, right? I mean, this whole iBuyer thing, it is so easy to make money on the way up. July 2007, I was telling my wife this story again. I still can't believe this. I grabbed my company bank statement, and the income for that month into this operating account was like $1.7 million, and the expenses was like $2.2 million. And I looked at my wife and I said, "I'm writing $500,000 a check a week." I mean, that was my reality. But I was bickering, right? It's like everything, and I was flipping, and if you could just do a little bit more, then that $7,000-8,000 a house that you were making would all fall to the bottom line. And if and it worked and worked and worked till it didn't, and then it almost put me out of business.
But one more thing I really want to hone in on is that I see this fallacy with all investors. How many people in the room, when you buy a property, think that you can buy it, rehab it, and sell it in 90, 120 days? Anybody?
Everybody. We're all optimistic.
So, having been in the business as long as we have, in the asset-based lending world, even back in the subprime world, 99, 2000 through 09. The average time it took to buy, fix, and cash out was 7.2 months, very close to the 8-month time frame.
Even in the world's best real estate market.
And investors come in and they do not allocate the interest carry. They don't have the ability, they don't have the holding power, the staying power. And you have to do all these kind of things. You have to be smart, you have to build it in. Because if you do not, you will fail.
Well, and one thing I want people to consider today is what you taught me back in 03 and 04 when we were building Sprint. The tax implications of being a flipper are severe, right? To say it the least. And so what Scott and I were doing back then, I think we did like 60 something houses the first year. We would buy the house, owner finance the house, and the whole business model was to make sure your underlying financing was good enough that you could carry it for at least 3-4 years and then sell the notes. Well, unfortunately, the financial crisis made the note buyers disappear like a plague. But if your financing is right, the underlying financing, you can kind of weather the storm, get out the other side where we finally sold the note. If you're selling, even if you're not overselling the house, if you're just selling it whatever it's worth, right? And you were going to make $20,000, well, you're probably going to make after taxes, 12, right? So if you're only going to make $12,000, because about 40%, I'm being lazy, but or you could turn it into what's called net interest margin, where you're making the monthly interest override off the other note, and for 2 years, and 2-3 years, you get into capital gains instead of the ordinary income. Well, now, you can turn what was going to be, and I'm going somewhere with this, so just hang on. You can turn what was going to be $12,000 into $40,000. But the whole point is nobody does that, or less people do it than should, because they need that money now to pay their overhead. They need that money now to pay their living expenses. They need that money now,
People don't calculate their holding cost. That's why people end up jumping off of a really good deal early.
I thought you were about to say a bridge.
That's what happens when they can't sell it.
It's not just the holding cost, though. And what Tim's getting to is, if you have the ability to buy and hold, and that's one of my philosophies, that's great, but you have to eat. You have to be able to create income somewhere. And so too many people think they can get into this business, generate wealth, but they don't have the income to do anything else. And it's a give and take scenario. You got to find a way to marry the two together.
Or they quit their day job so quick that now they have to become a dealer, right? Find inventory, sell inventory to make it override to pay for living expenses. That before you know it, they actually end up not doing what it was that they intended to do.
Yep. And you've got to find a way to have income along with the asset generation. Otherwise, you're going to sell off all your assets early, meaning you're going to make a whole lot less money.
Well, now what I find too, and we're going to wrap this up with everybody kind of don't want to close the shot, is what I find is you want to try to make the plan on the front instead of trying to figure it out in the back, right? And so tax strategies are huge.
Exit strategy.
How you're going to document or account for the down payments and the owner finance paperwork. Is it an installment sale contract? Is it, there's all these different ways that you have to be deliberate, just like if you're going to flip the house. If you're going to flip that, you have to be deliberate in budgeting your carry costs, your construction overages, just so you make sure that you can withstand. And I guess my whole point of all this is it hasn't been that important in the last 5 years. Because in the last 5 years, you could screw up royally and make money. And a lot of people could, and a lot of people have. And I have screwed up on so many houses because we were just doing so many. And I'm not sitting up here like I'm perfect. We lost $120,000 on a house last year. George's fault, but it's just one of those that we bought it. It's on a creek in Richardson. We're going to do this. Oh no, let's add some square footage. Oh no, let's add more square footage. Oh wait, what do you mean the city said we can't do that? Oh crap, we're red tagged. It's like before you know it, we own the house for a year and a half, right? And year and a half paying interest on a vacant house and property taxes and overages and city inspections, you just you lose your tail. So I told my wife that's the last one we're doing of those. So Next up is, I'll let you guys close up. I'm just going to say, so you're going to talk next about your journey through the 80s, the 90s, the alts, and now the teens. He's an old guy.
Damn, I look good.
And then you're going to be followed by Crystal Lee and Dante. They're going to talk about multifamily. And then we're going to eat barbecue about noon. That'll actually be kind of across the parking lot in the cafeteria. We've got some snacks and stuff out there, coffee, water. There's sodas in the fridge in there. That's all mine, so you're more than welcome to grab it if you're a soda kind of person. I'm going to let these guys kind of, and then Robert's going to talk after lunch. And then Nick's going to talk during lunch and after lunch. And then we're going to kind of have another panel later in the afternoon where I want to kind of wrap everything up and probably go deeper into this. But, I mean, I guess my 20,000-foot view is, number one, I'm not negative. I'm optimistic. I don't see bad debt on houses. I don't think housing will cause the next financial issue in America. We will call it a recession or the next financial issue. I don't think it will, but housing will be affected. Just like the dot-bomb crash hurt housing, right? I mean, Lord, you want to talk about overvalued. So I don't think, I'm optimistic. I don't think housing is the problem, but I think housing will be impacted. And to me, the thing that's most important at this phase of the cycle is not to be scared. It's just to be aware.
No, I think you're exactly right, being aware. But I want to focus on one thing that Nick said, too, again, because too many investors get into our business, this mentality they can buy, fix, and sell, make all this money. Reality doesn't work that way. You're always going to have issues that pop up. They don't allocate for the issues. You're going to have cost overruns. They can't carry those things, and they get stuck. At the same time, too many investors, if they try to get into the buy and hold marketplace, you know, they want to live off of the cash flow. They don't do the debt reduction. And if you want to be successful in our industry, you have to learn to buy and hold with smart and quick debt reduction. You and I both know that, and implement that. But too many people won't do that because they want to live for the day. They don't want to live for tomorrow. And that's one of the things I think investors need to really focus on for long-term success.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing is, I think you're going to get a lot out of today because we're going to talk specifically how to. It's one thing to address the issues. It's another thing to produce some solutions and things that you guys can do so that you can do these things. I mean, to know what the problem is one thing, but now what do I do? How do I do it? Where do I find those things? How do I implement? So that's what we're going to get into. So if you guys stick around and endure, then I think this is going to be probably one of the best decisions that you ever made to attend this thing today, because it's going to empower you for things that a lot of people are going to be looking for, but they didn't get to take advantage of because they didn't sacrifice their Saturday like you guys are. So,
and I'll punctuate the point Scott just made about being aware. And you should be aware that maybe the price that you might get a year down the road might be softer than you would hope for. And it may not. It may be just fine. But you absolutely can control what you're planning to spend in your rehab budget. And if you've done it and you have some familiarity with it a few years ago, you know, if you haven't done due diligence to really understand what those costs are going to be, that's something that you can control. I ran into a situation like, I was really surprised. It's completely logical, but, you know, drywall apparently is just going through the roof. And particularly in California, there's a lot of demand on drywall. And there were a lot of houses that got burned up in the fires out there. So there's, you know, just connecting those two dots helps you realize, I mean, there's demand on drywall in this country and prices are at all-time high. So if you think you understand your costs because you did it a couple of years ago, or even you know, a year ago, make sure you understand what your costs really are going to be.